Police Officer First Class Steve Missel is with Howard County Police Department's Community Liaison Section, Community Outreach Division, and he has been a member of HCPD for over 16 years. Corporal Cooley is with the Howard County Police Department, currently assigned to Community Liaison Section, Community Outreach Division. He has been a member of HCPD for approximately 11 years. And he's also currently assigned as the Asian Community Liaison Officer. I think I will hand it off to Officer Mizo and Lee. You can start now.
Yep, thank you.
Great.
All right. As we were introduced, we're both actually from Howard County Police Department Community Outreach Division, specifically under Community Liaison section. Thank you for having us, first of all. Good evening. So tonight we're gonna go over. Unfortunately, we're going over about the active threat, active shooter that's going around. We just want to make sure everyone is aware of what options they have. Some of the informations that might be thrown out here. If you have any questions during or after, please feel free to put that in the chat. We'll definitely have this little time to go over at the end. Hopefully we can answer all the questions for tonight. If not, we'll definitely get back with the answer, the right answer. We don't want to just guess, obviously. So we're not really sure, or if we don't have the answers, we'll once we get back, and we'll do a little research and make sure we have the right answer for everybody. So until then, let me just toss it over to Officer Mitchell for now.
Great. Thanks for having us. And I just want to say that we're going to throw a lot of information at you in a short amount of time. But everything we're going to talk about tonight is actually going to be on our website, www.hcpd.org. So if you have any questions after this, you can actually go ahead and we can send you the link after this, and you can pull it up on our website as well. So we're going to talk about police and civilian response to violence in gathering places. And unfortunately, it's something that we see far too often in our world in law enforcement. So hopefully we can throw some tips at you tonight to keep you and your family as safe as possible. Hopefully you never have to use any of these tips, but it's good to know them ahead of time, just in case you find yourself in one of these situations. So with the PowerPoint here, fortunately here we go. So we're going to examine the history of violence in gathering places. We'll discuss the response to active threat. We can't really do the interactive exercise, unfortunately, via Zoom. That's more of in person. And then we'll provide active threat prevention information. And then, like Corporal Lee said earlier, at the end, we can have time for some question and answers. And we can try and do the best we can for you. So this is our legal disclaimer. Our department makes us put this up as far as the presentation should not be relied upon as legal advice. It's designed as a guide only. And then you should consult with your own legal advisor prior to implementing any particular plan in place. So we're going to talk about a little history of violence in gathering places. And unfortunately, this is something we see far too often in our world, like I said before. And we'll cover some history, and then we'll go ahead and talk about some current events as well. So this is from the FBI. This is a study that they've done from 2000 to 2017, and this deals with active shooter incidences in the United States only. And as you can tell by the slide, there was over 250 active shooter incidences, and there's been over 2,217, casualties of those injured or wounded. And then what happens is we're going to do some further stats here for you as well. So you can look at this next slide, and it's one of those things where you can kind of tell from the slide itself. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of feedback. The fact that they've gone up through the years. You can look at the slide and see early 2000 there was one, and then 2017 the number of incidences per year have gone up. based on the slide. And then we'll cover some most recent stats as well. Again, it's just a prevalence of issues with active shooter instances. They're getting more and more prevalent through the years. So these are casualties per year, as far as the 250 active shooter incidents we were referring to earlier. As you can tell, they've gone up as well. And it's one of those things where in 2017, you see 729. That is because the fact of that was a Las Vegas incident. I don't know if anyone remembers that's on the call, but an individual in that incident actually was in a hotel room, and from an elevated position, he had a firearm, and he was able to shoot down into an open crowd. So that's why the number is so high, 729 incidences of casualties that year. There was over 500 in Las Vegas alone. So with some more current numbers, active shooter incidences from 2016 to 2020, as you can tell, it's a steady incline. This is also from the FBI, with 2020 having 40. Even while most of the country was locked down. More stats for you. You can look at the slide yourself, but as you can see, 40 and then 30 here with this slide of up-to-date numbers of active shooter instances. It's just one of these things where we can throw a lot of stats at you, and you can look for yourself, and you can do the research on your own. Just try to get the point across that hopefully you never find yourself in one of these situations, but they are happening a lot and around us. So this is some more up-to-date stats from the Bureau, and 2016 to 2020 are highlighted on both these sections, and it covers total casualty count and then those killed and wounded. So not only do you have to take into consideration the fact that individuals are dying, but there's also individuals that are wounded from these attacks that actually their quality of life will never be the same. So it's just kind of one of those things where on the next slide we're covering here is kind of close to home, and they'll pop up for you here shortly. But just with close to home being Maryland for us in Howard County, on my screen, I'm looking at the top left is Rite Aid. There was an incident in Harford County, Maryland, where an employee there, a temporary employee, went in there one day armed and shot, unfortunately, several other coworkers there. The top right on my screen is going to be the Gazette shooting in Annapolis, Maryland. That was recently in the news lately with a trial occurring where an individual armed with a gun, again, had some previous contact with the paper, and he had a vendetta against the paper. So what he did was he went in there one day while they were in a staff meeting and unfortunately shot several individuals in the staff meeting that day. Bottom right is the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. On this call, there's unfortunately hate exists in this world, and that was motivated by hatred of a religion. And an individual went in the synagogue that day and shot several individuals. With the synagogue, there was another recent incident that was in the news in Texas. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that, but a man was armed with a handgun in Texas and went into a synagogue and held several people hostage in there for several hours. So then the bottom left of my screen is actually a church in Ellicott City where there was an active shooter incident. So this was occurring where an individual who was a homeless individual, he was a patron of the church. He had visited the food pantry several times. One day he went in there armed and actually shot 2 employees inside that church. And then he actually shot himself not too far away in the wood line. So we can throw a lot of stats at you and we can tell you about these things occurring. But more importantly, what we're going to talk about tonight is some actions that you can take to hopefully keep yourself and your family as safe as possible if you were to find yourself in one of these situations. So some security vulnerabilities. What would make you vulnerable to an incident like this, specifically at a building? Buildings are rarely designed with security in mind, which means that, quite frankly, like most schools and grocery stores and movie theaters, security isn't really their first priority. It's more of one of those things where it's a priority of the police department. Like our building, for example, is very secure. There's cameras and there's a controlled access front. So most instances, buildings aren't really designed with security in mind, and usually not perceived as a serious crime risk. Thus, security measures are frequently minimal and inadequate. For example, a church isn't really, when you go to worship or wherever you are, a house of worship, a synagogue, a mosque, usually, those buildings aren't really perceived as serious crime risks, but unfortunately we're seeing that occur far too often. And then who would want to cause harm against this mentality? Some may have the attitude of, who would want to do harm to me? I'm just a peaceful person minding my own business. But unfortunately, we're going to talk about, there's people out there who carry out these attacks and do want to do harm against others. So it presents a target-rich environment from this slide. The assailant is looking to cause harm. And what that means is a target-rich environment means they're looking to do the most amount of harm in the least amount of time, which means that they're going to go into a crowded location. For example, a school, like in Sandy Hook. That was an incident. I don't know if anyone remembers that, several years ago, where an individual armed went into an elementary school. They're looking to go into a church, okay, because that's where people are. The key control and access management may be weak. That's just back to, the police station. The police station is designed with security in mind, but a grocery store or a movie theater is not. So therefore, access management, anyone can come in there at any point in time. May have an icon status that's often a flashpoint to a variety of hate groups or terrorists. And I know on the call that unfortunately hate exists in this world, and sometimes that hatred is catalyst for an individual to carry out this type of attack. The active threat event. So we talk about active shooter a lot, but an active threat event we're going to kind of highlight is any incidents which by its deliberate in nature and creates immediate threat or presents immediate danger to the community or your personal safety. That's a definition. So we talk about active shooter a lot, but also someone armed with a weapon. A baseball bat is an active threat. A threat of a bomb threat is an active threat. Recently in the news, there was some phone calls made to some historic Black colleges, where people were calling them bomb threats. So that's an active threat. So that has to be investigated thoroughly by law enforcement, whether it's real or not. That's an active threat. If someone calls and says there's a bomb at a location, we have to investigate that, and that is a threat to your public safety. The threat of arson, a combative subject, someone who may not be, armed with a weapon, but who could be armed with their fist. It's a person who is actively attempting to kill you, to hurt you. That's an active threat. So who's the assailant on most of these active shooter incidences? There's really no profile. Most incidents involved a single shooter, but I don't want you to get hung up on that, because in Columbine, that was way long ago. I'm not sure if anyone remembers that on this call. Columbine, there was a high school shooting in Colorado. There was 2 shooters, predominantly male and rarely female. But I just talked about kind of how the Harford County incident earlier, it was that was a female perpetrator who did that at the Rite Aid warehouse. May have previously broadcast intentions. Kind of what that means is broadcast either to a friend or relative that what they were going to do, or broadcast these days via social media. Social media is huge. People put their whole life on social media. So maybe they had put something on Facebook of what they wanted to do, or Instagram. And then usually they have this mindset, they're deliberate, focused, and detached. So they're deliberate in their actions, they're focused on what they're doing, and most oftentimes they're detached from reality. They're going through something. So these are the contributing factors. Back to the mindset. If you look on the screen, you guys can read that for yourself. But the key here is these are contributing factors to carrying out this type of a incident, right? But if you look on the screen, these are all situations that we've gone through as humans, just as being human, like death of a friend or a relative, I'm sure everyone on this call probably has unfortunately experienced someone's death in the family. Now, where this type of incident occurs is you're not dealing with it properly. So if you're not getting help for any of these things, and you have access to weapons and things along those lines, it could lead you to carry out something like this. You know, not all the time, obviously, but these are some contributing factors. So the connection to a facility, this is referring to incidents involving active shooters. If you look down it, it's pretty much split down the middle. 55% of the time they're connected, 45% of the time they're not connected. And by connected, we mean several things. We mean if it's a school, it's a current student or former student. If it's a workplace incident, it could be a situation, a domestic situation where that individual is going through a divorce or what have you, but they know that their ex or their current soon to be ex is going to be at work, so they're going to show up at their place of business. So you can kind of see the connection there. It's kind of split down the middle. So the assailant targets, you can look on the screen yourself. You can see the majority of the time they're commerce, which means they're open businesses, closed to pedestrian traffic or open to pedestrian traffic. But you can kind of look up there, education's next in line. Again, unfortunately, I can just name these off the top of my head. There was a recent incident in Michigan where a student was there. There was the Virginia Tech incident several years ago. So it's kind of all over the place. Again, hopefully you never find yourself in one of these situations, but unfortunately, kind of anywhere you go in public, you could find yourself in one of these situations. So police response to active threats. I know I've thrown a lot of stats at you and a lot of information, but this is kind of one of the key things you can take away. So the average law enforcement response to any kind of event like this is approximately 3 minutes. 3 minutes is really, really fast in our world. So us getting to you and trying to help you in 3 minutes, that's extremely fast for us. In Howard County, we have a pretty fast response time. But the key down here is the FBI, from the FBI. In 67 incidents where the duration of the incident could be ascertained, most of them were over in 5 minutes or less, and 23 ended in 2 minutes or less. So if I'm telling you that we're not going to get to you in 3 minutes, and you see kind of 23 incidents ending in 2 minutes, we're coming for you. But our best way to reduce fatalities and to keep you safe is to improve your response as a civilian prior to our arrival. And that's where we're going to cover some actionable steps that you can take next via, hopefully to keep yourself as safe as possible. So this is kind of like a normal human emotional response to things in life in general. If you're an active shooter incident, they're going to go through 3 things. You're going to go through denial, deliberation, and then action. And what that means is, for example, if you hear a loud bang while you're at work or at school, you may think it's, a firecracker's going off or a car backfiring. You're probably going to deny that it's actually gunshots. Some people have never even heard gunshots before, so you may not even know what it is. And then you want to deliberate, which means deliberation, which means basically you're going to think about what to do next. And then the action stage is what you're actually going to do next. But we're going to highlight some tips. Is basically we're going to try and cut down this time. So all these things that you're going through take time. And we're going to try and minimize that time where you're not going to deny, you're not going to kind of deliberate what you're going to do. You're going to kind of have 3 sets of things to do. And we want you to pick from one of those things to do, these actionable items, these things to do. So we'll highlight some of these things that we can give you some actions to take. So this is a video that Corporal Lee is going to play. And this is kind of what we train here in Howard County. It's run, hide, fight. You're going to see it's very fluid. So it's not always run, hide, and fight. You're going to have some things where you might not have a chance to run and hide, and you might have to fight. But this video is going to highlight a couple of those actionable steps.
你们学校是不是看？你们学校是不是也是？
Active shooter events can occur anywhere at any time, and frequently involve individuals attempting to kill others indiscriminately. These events are unpredictable and can evolve quickly. For this reason, whenever you enter a building as an employee, guest, or customer, you must be prepared and know what it is you will do if faced with the worst case scenario, even if it's just another day at the office.
Last night, every time I closed my eyes, all I could see were slide decks.
Don't remind me. Sorry I'm late. Did I miss anything?
Hey, you got a minute to catch me up on that thing?
Yeah, come on in. Is Amelia here too?
Let me grab her, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
When startled by a gunshot, it's a natural human reaction to freeze. Unfortunately, this response leaves you vulnerable to what might come next. If you see someone frozen in place in this type of situation, make your best attempt to assist them.
I think it's critical that we find a way to make sure this doesn't happen again. We've wasted way too much time.
That's gunfire.
Are you sure that was a gunshot?
That's gunfire.
Was that really a gunshot? Call the police.
Come on, get away from the door.
If you can't easily evacuate, the best option is to hide. Lock the door, stay close to the ground, and try to find cover from any stray gunfire that may penetrate the walls. If you're able, call 911.
What was that?
Sounded like a gunshot. What should we do?
Come on. Let's get out of here.
When possible, the best alternative in an active shooter event is to run. If your path is clear and you can safely reach an exit, evacuate as soon as possible. Of course, some may not have such easy access to a safe exit. In these situations, you must decide for yourself whether it is best to evacuate or to hide. As with any of these options, if you do choose to run, commit to this action. And remember, police will be arriving to assist you and to evacuate the wounded, so be sure to keep your hands up and empty as you clear the building. Otherwise, put simply, don't stop running. Once clear of danger, make contact with 911 to assist their response by providing them information about the shooter, the weapons they're carrying, and the amount of wounded that may still need medical assistance. If you have been unable to evacuate and are trapped in the facility during an active shooter situation, remember, making the decision to hide does not prevent you from putting up a fight later. If you are confronted by the active shooter, you have to assume that your actions are all that stand between yourself, your colleagues, and grave harm. Fight for your life. Search around you for sharp or heavy objects that you may use to disable the attacker. Collaborate with those around you to ensure you aren't acting alone. You're taking action for your survival, so do not hold back, and do not stop fighting until you know beyond certainty that you are safe. Committing to run, to hide, or to fight will keep you safer than if you freeze during a crisis. Remember to prioritize your safety. If you come across those who are wounded and may need assistance, assist them if you can, but do not let them inhibit your escape. As an individual, the most important thing you can do to keep yourself safe, whether it is to run, hide, or to fight, is to commit to your decision and to continuously reevaluate the situation. If you own a business or operate a large public facility, you may be able to better enable individual response to such events by identifying emergency escape routes and exits. Use this information to design evacuation plans that can be used by employees and guests to your facility. Reach out to law enforcement to see if they'll come to your facility and assist you in drafting your response plan or guide you to training that may assist employees in their survival. Remember, this training may be the difference between life or death. See about technology you may be able to incorporate to make your facility safer, which may include audio or visual cues for those with access and functional needs. Plan for and train your employees to assist those who may not be able to run, hide, or fight. Equip them with a first aid or a go kit, an emergency ladder in case you're not on the first story, and explore the possibility of mass notification technologies, which may enable you to alert those in the area of any present dangers. Of course, the hope is that neither you nor any of your friends or colleagues will ever be confronted with an active shooter situation. However, should the worst case occur, know that you can always run, hide, or fight.
Okay. So, as the video was talking about, there's 3 options. If you can remember 3 things, the 3 words, it'd be run, hide, fight. Like I said, we're going to go over each of them. Make sure if you have any questions, please put that in the chat. We'll go over it at the end. But the first option you have, and the best option, is run. Call 911 as soon as possible. That's when the clock starts. I know Officer Mitchell went over about the time of the response for police. That doesn't start until someone calls 911. So if you are able to do so in a safe manner, you have to start calling 911 to have the response from police as soon as possible. And also, like I said, leaving the location ASAP or as soon as possible is probably the best option to be in a safe position. And know your exits. Always, people don't realize there's always different exits or secondary exits for, let's say, restaurants or your workplaces. A lot of people know the only way you came in as the exit. But when you look around and actually pay attention, there's multiple exits. If the shooter is coming from that, entrance, you don't want to go that way. You want to, try to find a different exit to get out of the building or get out of the location. All right, so if you can't run, next option is hide. Obviously, lock the door, turn the lights off, stay out of sight, and silence your phone. You definitely don't want to give away your position. I know in the picture you see the person under the desk. We don't really recommend that because, as we were explaining, this is very fluid situation where you might be hiding for a couple seconds, and next thing you know, you have a chance to run, or you might have to fight. But if you're under the desk, you're probably not in a good position to fight or run. So, I mean, if that's the only option you have, I mean, that's it is what it is. But we definitely don't recommend that. Also, by hiding, having a barricade is definitely better than just having just regular door blocking between the active shooter and yourself. You want to have more time for the active shooter to get to you or others. Like I said, 3 minutes. It seems like a short time, but it's very long time when you're in that situation. So you put more things, make it heavier, and make it harder for the active to help you more and gain that more time in between. As you can see, you can utilize different techniques or objects to make the barricade. As you can see on the top, you can tie heavy things around the doorknob to prevent a person from opening the door. On the left bottom, you see the mechanism on the top. I'm sure everyone has seen one of them. If you tie your belt or rope or whatever you have, electric cord around that mechanism, it will not open with the whatever is around that mechanism. So if you want to try it, practice it, it will work. Make sure you just realize what kind of door you have, because that's not going to work with the door that's on the top right. So just know what kind of door you have. All right, and then last option, if you can't run or hide, obviously the last thing is you want to fight for your life. You want to position yourself. You want to bring that element of surprise. You want to disarm if possible. If you can't, the main point is not to take a gun away from that person. Okay, you're trying to, fight for your life. All right, if you can fight, and then you have the option to get away, you don't have to disarm that person. All right, get away, be in a safe position. All right, and like I said, fight for your life. If that's the option you have, and then reassess, and you have that time to get away, then get away from that position. All right, like I said, it's not in a specific order. Like I said, I know we went over by run, hide, fight, but you could be fighting and then running away. Okay, you could be or hiding and running away. So you have to reassess. We can't tell you every case, every situation is different. You have these three options. You have to reassess every situation, every second. All right. So if you are able to run from hiding or fighting, please do this. Like I said, that's the best option. So that's the ultimate goal, to get away from the dangerous situation. So you have to just reassess and make that decision. All right. We're gonna talk about Lieutenant Murphy. Officer, so you want to go over this? You know better about
sure.
this.
No worries. This is Lieutenant Brian Murphy. He was actually responding to this type of incident, to a Sikh temple shooting in Wisconsin, and he was actually shot. If you look at the slide that he's on, he's looking away. He has a long scar down his neck. He was actually shot 15 times, but he made it through because he had something called a survival mindset. And you can look at his quote. Even though he was injured, he put in his mind who he wanted to live for, which for him was his wife and his daughter and his stepkids. So if you're, hopefully, again, you never find yourself in any type of situation like this. But if you feel pain, if you can feel that you're hurt, you're still in the fight. It doesn't mean that all is gone. So we want you to kind of get that in your mind. Whatever you have to live for, whether it be your family or your favorite TV show or your favorite pet, whatever that is, you want to put that in the front of your mind and fight through this type of incident, because it's gonna help you mentally to get through it.
All right. So after police arrive at the scene, obviously we want to make sure everyone is out of the building or a location or situation safely to do so. Fortunately, when officers arrive, there's a lot of information that's been thrown out at them, and then they just don't know what to do, and then they're rushing through to make sure they want to eliminate the threat as soon as possible. However, we don't know who's the victim, who's the assailant. So obviously, we want everyone to follow officers' commands. Okay, that's the safest possible way to recognize if you're a victim or assailant. Obviously, when we ask for your hands, that's because hands are the ones that's gonna hurt you or kill you, because they're the weapons. So please raise your hands, or if they say show me your hands or palms, just follow the direction, and just don't make any sudden movements, because like I said, officers are very under stress. They don't want to lose focus because you're making sudden movements, and then now the officer has to focus on you rather than going towards the active shooter or assailant, because he may think that you might be doing something suspicious. And try to avoid yelling or pointing. A lot of people are going to give information saying, hey, he's there, unless you're certain or you know what is going on. Try to just get out of the way, just follow their command, just get to the safe point. There's going to be officers out in the safer area to gather all the information. The officers who's initially going in is, like I said, their main goal is to eliminate the threat at the point to make sure there's no more further victims.
Come on.
All right, the key points, like I said, when we went over earlier, we were trying to summarize. I know it was a lot of information, but most incidents, they are over within a couple minutes. And, call 911 as soon as possible, because that clock of response from police doesn't start until someone calls 911. However, we want to, make sure you're in a safer location, or in a safe manner to call this, because if you're hiding, you don't want to give up your spot or location because you're trying to call 911. If you are able to do so safely, and that's what we want you to do as soon as possible. The three options I explained earlier: run, hide, fight. Like I said, you just have to reassess situation constantly. It's not in order. You just have to make that decision. Unfortunately, we can't make that decision because we're not with you at that time. That's why we're going over this, the options you have, and you know what the options are at the point. And when police arrive, like I said, just follow their command and try to be calm as possible and just get to the safe place. And prevention and planning, we want to make sure, we're going over this information to let everyone, prevent or plan ahead if this were to happen. Obviously, we want everyone to share this information with your friends and families. Like Officer Mitchell and I, we always go over this kind of situation with our family members. Let's say, we go out in the restaurant. I would just go over, hey, where are some exits? What are we going to do if something were to happen? I mean, we don't do that every day. Like that's too much, but it's just good to just go over, hey, if something were to happen, what are we doing? At the mall, what are we eating? Like, we split up. How are we communicating? It's just good to plan ahead if something were to happen. It doesn't have to be active threat. It could be fire. Just having that prevention and planning will definitely help in the future if something were to happen. Where if you don't have any plan and we just don't know, you don't know how to act, that's not going to be good. And you want everyone to be on the same page. You don't want to be explaining this whole presentation to your friends and family at that time, because you don't have time at that point. You want everyone to be on that same page. So just plan ahead. It's going to definitely help you in the future. All right. So removing opportunities. So obviously you can read from the slide. In order for a crime to occur, there's three elements: ability, desire, and opportunity. The only thing we can remove is opportunity. We are not able to remove the ability and desire of the suspect from harming us. Okay, if the person is able to shoot a gun, or they are trying to kill someone, they will do so. However, if you remove the opportunity by running away or getting out of the line of fire, the person is not going to be able to hurt you. That's why we're just going over to make sure you know your options, you plan ahead to remove that opportunity from that person from hurting you and your families and friends. All right, so we are going to go over this quick video. This is a nightclub, I believe, from a long time ago, as you can see from the video. The crew was filming about was a nightclub safety, and as you can see, there's a lot of people, and the band was playing, and I guess something happened with fireworks, or it caught on the fire. The stage caught on fire, and you will see how people react, and we will go over as the video plays. There's no sound, just letting you know. So as you can see, the clock starts from now. The band's playing, you can see the firework. People are, having fun. and it catches on fire. So now people are realizing, yeah, that's not part of the entertainment or the show. So people are trying to figure out what to do. They're looking around. That's 30 seconds right there. Just realizing what to do. And now they are trying to go back to the entrance where they came in from, which is the back side of the building or the front side. As you can see, all these people are just trying to push each other to get out. And you see the smoke already coming out. That's 1 minute. So the crew's going around. That's the back side of the building. So there was exit in the back side of the building where people could have gotten out, and you see all these windows that people could have came out of. You know, they knew that they could get out of the window, break the window, and get out. And that's the front entrance, and you can see that people are just piled because they were pushing each other, and people fell and couldn't get out, and now they're just stuck. And that's 2 minutes. So 2 minutes. It's not a long time. Like I said, you can, as you can see from the video, that was really quick. A lot of people died that night. I'm not sure exactly how many people, but a lot of people were inside next to those windows that they could have broken out to get out, and the kitchen area in the back. And as I was talking about earlier, there's always secondary exits, and when you go to restaurants, there's always exits throughout the kitchen. People could have utilized different exits, but all they knew was where they came in from, which was the front entrance. So just know where you are, and just know where the exits are. If something were to happen, like I said, it doesn't have to be active threat. If something similar to this happens, you just want to get out in a safe manner. Just wrapping up, prepping, planning, and practice is the key. I went over pretty much again and again. Just going over with your family, friends is very important. You want to share this information. If something were to happen, everyone's on the same page. You're not wasting time explaining what to do. We went over with denial, deliberation, and action. We want to get to the action as soon as possible. So if everyone's on the same page, they know what to do. The faster you act, it's faster you get into the safe zone or location. And again, run, hide, fight. That's the 3 options that we want you to remember from this presentation. And if you can't remember anything out of this presentation, I know that we had a lot of stats thrown at you earlier, and numbers and this and that. But the main thing we want you to understand is that those are the options you have if something were to happen like this. All right, well, that's all we have. I know it was a lot in a short time. Like I said, and Officer Mitchell said, the presentation itself is on our website, acp.org. If you want to go over the statistics or some of the things that you wanted to go over with your family, friends, it's up there. It's online. If you want to get a PDF copy of it and just go over it, it's available. And if you have any questions, please let us know, and we will be glad to answer any questions that we can answer. All right, let me just put this out there until then. So if you have anything, if you have any questions, if you want to have us at community events, meetings, please reach out to us at the email you see on the presentation, or the phone number, or myself. And also, one more thing that I want to bring up is security survey. I know with a lot of burglars that's happening around, and obviously with the active threat as well for commercial property like businesses, our section also offers free security survey. I think the video kind of went over earlier. So what the security survey is, we come out, the officers who's certified actually comes, coming out to the location, and we would check, we would go around the premise or location to make sure, we give recommendation how to make the place safer by environment, where to put lights, or if you want to put security camera, we recommend putting here, there. A lot of people don't know where to start, and we kind of give recommendations. Unfortunately, we can't tell you what to do, but if you don't know what options you have or where to start, obviously you can always reach out to us to have that filled out or have the survey going on. Officer Mitchell's, he's the one of the experts we have. So please, like I said, it's free. We try to push that information out to everybody to utilize that. To even if for your personal house, we come out. We'll come out. We just did it a week ago for a lady in Clarksville. So we are always open if you want to just check out your house or your business. We'll be out there. Just make sure we give out recommendations saying, hey, your door is great, but try it this way to make it more secure. Put a light here, there, all that stuff. So if you have any question, if you want to do it, please reach out to us by going to our website and put that request, and we'll reach out back to you.